Take it away, Virginia.
I sure will. What an incredibly cool and fun night. We just hit the record button, but before we hit the record button, we were looking at everybody that has joined us, and what a great representation of this country and several others. So it's going to be a really fantastic night. Welcome. I should have started with welcome. Tonight we're going to be talking about writing in the KN1 classroom. My name is Virginia Quinn-Mooney. I am a presenter and a part host with Kata Solo, who is here to represent the Goyen Foundation. And this event and these events sort of came together through conversations and what we saw as needs, and we're all moving so forward in our um, quest to get literacy correct. And what we realized was that we need to now, like everybody's in, right? We're all on board. We all want to do what's best. And now we're here tonight to hopefully um, give you some strategies to make some of that happen. Again, tonight's focus is on the K1 classroom. And I'm one presenter, but the other presenter, which I'm so excited about, is Anjanette McNeely. She's a kindergarten teacher and she's really strong in SRSD, and I'm going to say nothing about it so that she can. Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Goyen Foundation? Because it's such a pivotal resource for our literacy journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Virginia, and thanks everyone for coming out tonight. At the I'm a former classroom teacher, former school administrator, and but now my
But
day job is, and I'm gonna be just aggressively muting folks if you're coming in unmuted, so I apologize. So at the Goyan Foundation, we're really all about finding really great reading teachers from across the country and elevating their voice and their practices and getting their ideas and instructional practices in front of other teachers. And that's like literally what we're all about. And that's literally what we're doing tonight with Virginia and Anjanette, who are two of the most thoughtful and skilled and kind and compassionate reading teachers that I know. We really believe that professional learning should look a lot like what we're doing tonight, which is two great teachers sharing snippets and pieces and routines from their practice that you can hopefully take back to your classroom and start trying out tomorrow. So that's what we're going to do tonight. You'll hear from me periodically as I interrupt Virginia and Anjanette with your questions. But otherwise, I'm going to just pass it on over to Anjanette. Let Virginia stop sharing. Anjanette's going to share. And then I guess the last thing I'll say is like, please stay muted for now. Drop questions as you have them in the chat. We'll have a chance at the end to kind of come off mute, come on camera, and answer some questions live at the very end. But if you have questions, periodically put them in the chat. And actually, I'm not going to kick it over to Anjanette yet. I'm going to kick it over to Virginia, who's going to do a little intro, and then we'll get going.
just quick. Oh, and one of the other things that I forgot to mention, these events are co-sponsored, and the Goyen Foundation is one sponsor. And the Facebook group, What I Should Have Learned in College, has been insanely supportive of all of these efforts. I'm a moderator on the page, and typically we no longer have event posts on there. We have a separate page for that, but Donna is so all in for these events because she really feels like it is just a great place for us to gather to talk about best practice. And just to reiterate what Kate has said, even though Anjanette and I are presenting, you're doing such great stuff. So if there's anything that you're doing that we can plagiarize and customize, also drop that in the chat. But if you have questions, I hate to ask people to come off mute, but it's amazing how quickly conversations can go. And we want to make sure that we really use our time to the best that we can. Anyway, you're already looking at the screen. I will not read it to you because you have all been taught to read by your fabulous kindergarten and first grade teachers. But essentially, uh, we know now at this point we're pretty deep into the woods that into the weeds that we're born with the ability to walk and talk. We are not born with the ability to read and write. Reading is one. Uh, reading is one function and writing is the other. And like just like the screen says, breathing in, breathing out. they essentially use the same neural pathways in the brain. Reading is a little bit easier. We're all sort of on board for the reading portion of it and what we need to do sequentially. Um, Everybody always says, and myself included, writing is just a little bit more difficult to get to that space. Um, and I think this has a lot to do with it. Unlike reading, writing involves thinking about what you want to say. How do you have to spell it? You need the fine motor to write it down on paper. You have to form the letters. You have to put the words in the right order. You have to start it with an uppercase. And that's just the first sentence. So on top of all that, now we're expecting them to really do it well. And which brings me to my next point. What we're moving towards now is teaching writing it and not just, how often have you heard or even said guilty? Off you go. We give them a prompt and it's the old off you go. Well, that doesn't help. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is the direct instruction of writing as well. We can't just send them off. We can't just ask them to write more and more. It is just as sequential. It's just as systematic. It needs the direct instruction just as much. So we have our UFLIs, we have our CKLAs, our foundations. We have a lot of really strong phonics programs. And I feel like writing is starting to make its way up that same chain. In any event, all right, that's my big old spiel. And writing, it's a much more, it's a bigger cognitive lift, which is why I think tonight is important. Anyway, Anjanette, if you're ready, I'm ready to stop.
Okay. Okay. Can you see it?
We can see it.
Okay, great. My name is Anjanette McNeely. I have worked in the past as a teacher, a tutor. I've been a curriculum writer. I've been a literacy coach. I'm currently teaching kindergarten to 24 students, and I'm fortunate to be part of that 2025 Goyen Fellow cohort, which is fabulous. If any of you guys want to give it a try, they just opened up the cohort for next year. I spent 15 years in Title I schools. I'm currently not in a title school, and I have taught both half-day and full-day kindergarten. And I'm super excited to be here with all of you guys to try to talk more about teaching writing. So I am the person in the PD who always is like, why do you want me to do this new thing? And you have to give me the evidence that it's going to be better than what I'm already doing. So I love the Simon Sinek Golden Circle, start with the why. So when we think about why teach writing, let's face it, it's really hard. And writing is an unconstrained skill. So if you think about constrained skills, those are specific foundational abilities with clear mastery points like A is or an A spelled, or I'm saying that all wrong. A is spelled by the letter A. And then there's the unconstrained skills. Those are broad and complex, and they don't have a good finish line for us. And writing's that unconstrained skill. So we also have the challenge of maybe you guys are like me and you've had poor curriculum that has not taught writing at all. It's like Virginia said, it's like, well, go write a story. And a horrible lack of training. I've gone to writing trainings where it's just, well, just go have your students write. So I was on the lookout for something that would help me teach writing better. So two big heavy hitters in writing research, if you want to dive into writing research, are Steve Graham and Karen Harris. And they explain some of the benefits of teaching writing. So like Virginia said, you can read this on your own. So I'll give you a second. And as you went through it, did you catch it at the end that when we teach writing, it will help our students build comprehension? So even in these early grades, we have to be focused on teaching both parts of the reading rope, and teaching writing can help us there. There was an article that Graham and Harris wrote called A Path to Better Writing. And I love this reference to a thorny question. I just finished watching Sleeping Beauty this weekend with my granddaughters, And I'm thinking about Prince Philip, like fighting through all the thorns as he's trying to get to the castle. And sometimes I feel like that's me trying to teach writing. It's like I'm having to fight back these thorny vines that keep coming at me. But they gave us 4 great ideas of things that we can teach in early grades that have a lot of bang for your buck. And the first one is we need to teach handwriting, typing, and spelling. And you can see the percentile point jumps in these bullet points. We need to teach sentence construction skills. We need to teach strategies for planning, drafting, revising, and editing text. And that's specifically where I'll talk about, although things I'll talk about tonight also fit in all 3 of the bottom bullet points. And we need to increase children's knowledge about the basic attributes of specific types of writing. Those are some pretty big percentile jumps when we teach those things to children. And so I call them the good bang for your buck strategies. The routines I'm going to show you come from Releasing Writers or Think SRSD. They're kind of rebranding from Think SRSD to Releasing Writers. So I'll probably flip back and forth because I haven't really rebranded the words yet. If you're not familiar with SRSD, it's self-regulated strategy development, and it combines the explicit instruction in writing with self-regulation skills. We're trying to help students to plan and monitor and revise their own work. So you're thinking, well, what does research say about this model? Like, why would I choose this model? And some recent research was just done by Nate Hansford. Some of you might know him on social media as Nate Joseph. And these are a couple of points that I pulled out of that research article. You can go through and look it up yourself. I'll give you a minute to read through those. The one that really jumped out at me was that the younger students particularly benefited from this intervention. And since I teach the youngest students, I knew that that's going to be a model that will work for me. So take a minute now and let's activate your prior knowledge about writing. What do you already know about teaching writing? This is the framework from Releasing Writers or Think SRSD. And it shows all the things that we're going to teach. If you look in the green column, you can see the word power in the white words as it goes down the columns. And they use a power cycle. And the first strategy that I'm going to highlight tonight comes from the plan section. When we do the planning, that helps students to think about what they're going to write before they write. And under that toolkit side, you'll notice that the plan has 3 parts. And we're going to look at the pull apart the prompt to set the purpose of writing part. So the pull apart the prompt, this step comes before the students start to write. And it sets the purpose for writing. Have you ever given your students a prompt like, what is your favorite season? And then as you're just walking around the classroom helping students, you notice that somebody's writing about something like a monster truck rally. Because for these little students, it can be hard to understand the prompt and then stay on topic, and especially if they have language issues to understand what they're supposed to be writing about. So this pull apart the prompt really helps with that. It is a great opportunity to teach and review academic vocabulary. I use CKLA, so my prompts come from that curriculum. They're already written in it. And they have great words like explain, identify, describe, and characterize. And so that gives me an opportunity to review and use that high utility tier 2 vocabulary. And another great part of it is all you need is a simple T-chart that you can draw on any board. Just draw your T-chart, write do on the left and what on the right. I mean, it couldn't be more simple than that. So as we go ahead and watch a couple of short video clips from my classroom, here's a couple of things you might want to look for on these videos. The first is we have a focus on identifying the purpose for writing. we're going to have a consistent review of the POW cycle. The older grades will do the POWER cycle, but in kindergarten, we only do the POW of the POW cycle. I'm going to scaffold through a vocal emphasis on the do and the what to help them pull that out. And the students will be physically performing each movement in the cycles to try to help them remember it. So in this video, we're going to pull apart the prompt and I'll write it on the board. It's just a really simple prompt. We'll get it started.
We have learned a lot of awesome things about polar bears, right? And today we're going to get started writing about them. We're going to start with our POW. Can you do POW with me? POW. So today we're going to be working on our P, which is to plan. So the first thing we're going to do is P1, which is pull apart the prompt. Dan, I need you to do it with us. Pull apart the prompt. Thank you. So here is our prompt. We are going to write true facts about polar bears. Say it with me. Mir.
Mir.
Today we will.
Today we will.
Start writing.
Start writing.
True facts.
True facts.
About polar bears.
About polar bears.
So now we're going to pull apart the prompt with our do what? Do what? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Thanks for raising your hand. I'm seeing hands go up. Thank you so much. I'm seeing more hands go up. What are we going to do, Jet?
Write about polar.
We're going to write, is our do, and write about what? What are we going to write about? Polar bears. So that's our do what. We're going to write about polar bears. We're going to write about polar bears. So now we have to do our.
So this is another little clip that is where students are going to write the do what with me. This is a little bit of a more difficult prompt because we're going to have to find two do's in it. On this one, as I watched it back, I should have probably reminded them what the vocabulary words were. We've talked about identify and describe before, but I probably should have reminded them the definition before we jumped right into it. Oops.
I need your eyes back up here. It said to do what? Now listen carefully. There's two do's today. We've only had one do before. This time we have two. Listen carefully and see if you can pick out the do's. Identify and describe royal objects associated with a king or a queen. Identify and describe royal objects. Raise your hand if you can figure one of the do's. Ooh, I've got 3 friends. I've got 5 friends. I've got 7 friends. I've got a lot of friends. What is one of the do's, Remy? Listen again. Identify and describe royal objects.
And describe.
Describe. Yep, there was one before describe. So let's see if we can get the first one down, and then we're going to add describe. That was one of them. Owen.
Identify.
Identify means to pick, to identify or find it, to pick or find it. Identify. Identify is right here. Do you see it's right here on your paper? Let's pound and sound it. Identify. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Identify and describe. What? What are we going to identify and describe? Do you remember what it was, Rose? Identify and describe royal objects associated with a king or queen. What are we going to identify and describe? Royal objects. Right up here. We're going to write royal objects right up here. Can you pound and sound royal with me?
Okay, so that is the pull apart a prompt routine. So now that we've gone through it real quickly, let's try a little bit of retrieval practice on this routine. So you can drop your answer in the chat, you can whisper it to yourself, you can write it on a scrap of paper, whatever works for you to just pull this information back into your brain. So the first question, when do you use this routine? Yep, before writing. Okay, why would you use this routine? To set the purpose for writing. And what chart do you use for this routine? Yeah, simple T-chart. It couldn't be easier. So we're going to move on to the second routine we're going to look at tonight. We're going to be under the organized section, and you will see on the toolkit side, the tide. And tide is more effective and efficient than freeform writing because it will help prevent kind of those extensive revisions when children kind of write totally off topic. T stands for the topic, the ID is for information and details, and the E is for the ending. In kindergarten, I combine the I and D. In the upper grades, they are divided. And students can also add an L to the tide for tide L to highlight key vocabulary. So there's so many graphic organizers out there. So you're thinking, well, why would I use the tide? Well, tide is a research-based strategy. It provides a clear organizational structure. It will reduce that cognitive load of writing because of the organization and following that same organization every time. It's a really easy mnemonic to remember, and it's easy for students to recreate independently. I use organizers, but in the older grades, they encourage kids just to write the letters down on their paper so they can create a tide anywhere, anytime. And we can add that language box to support academic vocabulary. Here's a couple of examples of different tide organizers. The one on the left is the one I use in my classroom. And the one in the middle I created for advanced kindergarten students at the end of the school year. And both of those I can link and have Kata send out if you're interested in either of those. The one on the right was created by Lindsay Kemeny. It's available on the Think SRSD Facebook page for free download. And it's also available in her book, Rock Your Literacy blog. They're just different ways to kind of set up the tide. So we're going to watch some videos for tide. So I want you to think about, is there a teacher, what teacher think aloud is happening? Are all the students writing? Can you see students using full sentences and hear them using full sentences when they're sharing their ideas? And are students referring to the vocabulary from the knowledge unit in this portion? So here's the first video. When you start using the power cycle, you can model everything. There's extensive scaffolding in the beginning of the year. But I like to have students jump in with writing as much as they can, as soon as they can, because I feel like they stay more engaged when I do that. And it also gives me authentic practice with phoneme segmentation and correct letter formation. Now, this clip is going to come from a 25-minute lesson, and I had to like smush it down to 3 minutes. So you will just see snippets of us transferring the ideas that we picked the day before to our tide charts. So you will see us do one important, just the topic, one important detail, and then a couple of language words in the organizer.
What tool do we use to organize our tide? We do have to use a pencil on our tide, but our tide is our tool. Let's stand up and review what the tide stands for. Stand up. We have our topic. Then we have one important detail, two important detail, three important detail, and our ending. We need all of those pieces. So find your spot back in your chair. Remember when we write on our tide, do we have to write the whole sentence? Or is it jock talk or caveman talk, where we just put a few words that we can make a sentence into tomorrow? Okay, are we ready to choose some of the ideas from our polar bear organizer yesterday? So if you will grab a crayon, your favorite color. Will you raise your hand if you think you have a good idea of what our topic is going to be? I should see all hands going up. I think you should all know what our topic's going to be. What is our topic we've been learning about? Polar bears. Polar bears. Okay. Where on our paper does it say polar bears? At the top. We wouldn't use an uppercase P because we're not writing a sentence here. But there it is. I can slide it right here. Look, it's right here. That's easy peasy. My topic is polar bears. Polar bears. Now I I've got my topic, my green topic on my rocket started. Okay, so for our first important detail, if you chose can, it will be eat. Can, eat. So if you chose can, who chose the can row? Raise your hand. So you're going to write can, eat. Okay, you guys who chose can you get started on that one? Another interesting word that we talked about with polar bears was blubber. We might want to write about their blubber because the blubber helps them to float when they swim. So you ready to pound and sound blubber? Okay, Parker, are you ready too? You should have a pencil in your hand right now. Yeah, we need to write this with a pencil because you can't erase that crayon. Okay, blubber. Blubber. B, 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 b. Okay, we're thinking of those new vocabulary words that we didn't know before.
Hollow.
Hollow. Oh, a good one. That's such a good one. Oh, and okay, let's pound and sound hollow. Hollow.
Okay, so you can see how we went through each part of the tide and filled it out with just short snippets, not full sentences, and then they will take those and turn those into a write. So this video is going to show us the next day taking that organizer and orally we're going to build full sentences before students start to write. You'll notice one student will struggle with her syntax here, and saying the sentence out loud will let us get her some additional practice before she starts her writing.
My topic, it just says polar bears. Is that a complete sentence? Raise your hand if you know how to turn that into a fabulous complete sentence. Rudy.
I know about polar.
I know about polar bears. Anybody got a different one? May.
Polar bears live in the Arctic.
Yep. Okay. And Rose.
This is what I know about polar bears.
Excellent. We had 3 excellent ideas. You could write those or you could write something else. Now here's my first important detail. Are mammals. Is that a complete sentence?
No.
Can somebody turn it into a complete sentence? It's got to do. There is no who. Spencer.
Polar bears are mammals.
Excellent. There's our first important detail. Here was my second important detail. Patient. That was our characteristic. Patient. Who can turn that into a complete sentence for me? Colin.
Polar bears are patient.
Is that a complete sentence?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It has a who and a do. Okay, here was my last important detail. Fierce. Who can turn that into a complete sentence for me? Parker. Turn that into a complete sentence for me. Fierce was the word. Turn it into a sentence. I know about polar bears are fierce. Has some words that are a little bit mixed up. You know, when we do our mixed up sentences and we have to figure out how to get them to sound the way that they should sound in a sentence. So why don't you start with they or polar bears? Try that.
Polar bears are fierce.
Did that make sense? Yes, polar bears are fierce.
So here's a few student work examples. So the prompt here was identify plant parts. This was written in the last week of October. The student who wrote this came in the year with an Acadience reading score of well below benchmark. There was tons of scaffolding. We pound and sounded all the words in the Tide organizer and together as a class, and then we built the sentences together. I do a ton of scaffolding to help them to put all those ideas down. They feel so successful. Here's another example of a high academic student, and she loves to write. And you can see how she's even used the language box words of germinate and pollinate in her sentences. In that second sentence, plants have seeds and they germinate. And in her fourth sentence, they have flowers that bees pollinate. So using Tide in this language box is kind of some natural differentiation for the higher students. They can just kind of take off while you're scaffolding students who need that scaffolding. This was our writing focus for this week, was our prompt. We are collecting this for conferences with parents next week. So we pulled out a lot of the support. So we wrote food together, everything else they had to write all on their own. And you can see that as I pulled the scaffolding away, many students are already being very successful on their own. And she says, I love my food. Mangoes are succulent, which was a past vocabulary word from our CKLA. Cinnamon rolls are delicious. And apples are crunchy, which was also a language box word. And then I love food. I love this structure because students are so successful and they really start to love to write. So let's do some quick retrieval practice on this tide routine. When do you use the tide routine? You can drop it in the chat. You can just whisper it to yourself, however you like to do it. After planning, and when and why would you use it? And it's to organize your ideas. And what chart would you use? And it's the tide or the tide L charts. So as we learn new things, it's so important to build connections with things we already know. So as we wrap up, I'd love you to consider this question and maybe even jot anything down. And then think about, is there anything you can take from either of these two routines that you could take right back into your classroom? If you want to learn more, you can check out thinksrsd.com. And then it's now called the Releasing Writers, formerly Think SRSD, Learn the Science of Writing Facebook page. So that is what I have. Virginia, was there any questions, Kata, that you wanted to pop in right now?
I
I think
did.
there were, right, Katie? There was a couple.
There are a couple. So, thank you so much, Anjanette. I think SRSD, releasing writers, whatever we're calling it, is so like it sounds so intriguing, but it's so obscure to I think so many folks, including me. So it's really helpful to hear you talk about how you're using it with kindergartners and to see it. So just two questions, and maybe more will come in. This isn't about so do you tell your students the exact spelling of words? Like how do you deal with like that inventive spelling piece?
I do when I write in front of them, then I tell them how to spell it correctly. I know Louisa Moats has had some opinions on that, and I've kind of just leaned with what she said, that if we are spelling in front of students, I spell it correctly. And then I just start pulling that scaffolding out as they learn more letters and sounds, and then they will start sound spelling. I was worried when I started it that maybe because I modeled so much at the beginning that they wouldn't be willing to take it over, but you could see in that last student word sample that they're so excited about it, and it's taken some of the cognitive load because they now have the structure that they'll dive into it.
Thank you so much for that. Second question, what is the best and we'll get to this. I think this is a question from Alice, and we'll address some of this in Virginia's portion, but I'm curious what is the best way to teach your kiddos to understand like what a complete sentence is? You did a little of that there in that last video, like rearranging the words and giving them a prompt, but yeah, tell us more about that.
Literacy How, I think it is, has some videos on YouTube where you talk to your sentences about your students about sentences with a who and a do. So we build that all orally, identifying the who and do, and then we start adding things like we want to make it more interesting. Can you do a sentence that includes because? Can you do a sentence that includes a but? And so I would look up I think they're on YouTube, Literacy How, Margie Gillis, and there are some like building syntax where you are sorting words and then putting them together and then helping them build those full sentences.
I'll look for that resource and drop it in the chat. And I'd also recommend, it sounds like a very similar thing, but the Syntax Project by a group of educators, I think Australia, maybe. It's all free. I'll drop that link in there, but that would be really, really useful. We're gonna take just a couple more. We're gonna move on to Virginia's portion of the presentation, then we're gonna come back to some questions that are in the chat right now. So thanks everybody, and sit back and relax and enjoy.
Honestly, before we get to me, like just take a deep breath. That was kindergarten. Like, holy moly, that was kindergarten. That's what kindergartners are about to start Right. And, it goes to the whole, there's nothing they can't do. But anyway, actually, to answer the question about first graders, buckle up. This is where we're headed. And I totally appreciate your segue about how do we let them know. One of the hardest things to do actually for me has always been like, what exactly does a sentence look like? And I've been getting a little better about it over the years. But what I found for me, where I start, I don't start with what a sentence is. I sort of start with what a sentence is not. And I have a video. I'll probably cut some of them short so we don't keep you too late. But this is essentially where I start my sentence instruction. I wrote some sentences for you. Your faces are very cute. I wrote some sentences for you. And I think you're going to really, really, really enjoy them. You ready?
Yeah.
First sentence. Jack and Eileen. Addison just did this. I agree. Next sentence. It's fun to climb. Huh? I see a lot of this already. I've only done, huh? Listen, if it doesn't make sense, do that. Say, huh? Let me hear that. What are you going to do? Huh? Okay. Next sentence. Friends. Last sentence. Froze. Okay. We've talked about this. Every sentence, see if you remember, has a who and a
do.
every one of my sentences is either missing my who or my do. Should I go back and fix it?
Yeah.
First sentence. Jack and Eileen, what's missing, the who or the do? The do, good. Jack and Eileen went to the party together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Nice job, Mrs. Mooney.
Nice job, Mrs. Mooney.
Okay, so essentially we then went to each one and we talked about which part was missing. So my language starts with the who and the do, but now at this point in the year, they also understand that the who is the subject and the do is the predicate. So it starts with, as always, the old I do, we do, they do. So I've introduced what a fragment is, and now they're going to make sure, now we're going to work together as a group so that they know the difference between a full sentence and an incomplete sentence.
The eagle's yellow beak.
Fragment or a sentence, huh? Great.
The piggy. Piggy.
Okay, so now they've worked with me, and now, as always, they work independently. What'd you say, Colin? That makes you do what? I don't know. So essentially, they read several sentences, and there's so much that they already know, and when they read it out loud, either it makes sense and it doesn't make sense. And it's pretty amazing how quickly they can take that practice and put it into their writing. And it's one of the reasons why I always have them read their writing out loud to each other, because it's just crazy how often as they're reading it, then you'll hear them go, oh, well, like that didn't make any sense. So again, we introduce what a sentence is not before we start to get into what a sentence is. And Anjanette talked about this a little bit, but so a sentence is, it has to make sense, but then there also needs to be the syntax behind it. And I learned this at the Reading League from Amy. Oh my gosh, Kate, I'm gonna say her name wrong. Surik.
I have no idea who you're talking about, Virginia.
No, she's wonderful. She's great. But it's a way to help them build their syntax. And what I do in my classroom, we all have our acronyms. Mine is SWAG, and they know that every sentence has to start with uppercase. They have to write neatly, always use spaces, and give punctuation. But so now you'll see them construct a sentence, and they have to put it together.
park with my friends. To the park. When? The friends went to the park. The friends went to the park? Oh, yeah. Come play. And play. To play.
So this is working on their grammar as well as their syntax, and they're working cooperatively to put the words together. I gave them the words, and they have to apply what they know about sentence structure.
Where's the park? The friends went to the park to play. The friends went to the park to play.
I see one thing that should be changed.
The friends went to the park to play.
Madison, why do you and Scarlett have to switch?
Because Scarlett's is uppercase and mine lowercase.
Fantastic.
The
Okay, now read it.
The friends went to the park to play.
And how do we know for positive that Colin is the very last word?
Because he has a period.
Okay, so, we always refer to K2 as foundational. It's because it's foundational. And even with writing, it's so foundational. And, kindergarten, well, Anjanette's blown it out of the water with her sentences, but, as a first grade teacher, what I really, really, really need is for my kids to come to me with like really strong, just word level. And to be able to spell the words and write the words. And then I can take it a little bit farther now and I can teach them more of the syntax. But what we're doing is we are laying the foundation so that when they are moving on and they are writing paragraphs, we're giving them the foundation so that they're doing it correctly. It's the opposite of I want them to write more and more. I don't want them to write more and more. If they write 3 sentences, I think that's really great. But what I want from them is to write a grammatically correct sentence that makes sense and it has a subject and a predicate and eventually adjectives, but I am giving them the foundation of sentence formation. We also dig a lot into the type of sentences, and this helps them with their writing as well. So there's the command, the declarative, and the interrogative. And I use all this vocabulary, as I'm sure you guys do. Okay, so you all see that picture?
Yeah.
Is it fantastic?
Yeah.
Are they the cutest thing ever?
Yeah.
All right. You are going to look at that picture for a minute. And I want you to write an interrogative sentence. Does anybody remember what an interrogative sentence is?
Yeah.
If you know it, say it.
It's a question.
It's a question. An interrogative sentence is a what now?
It's a question.
A who now?
A question.
Okay, and what are you going to put at the end of your interrogative sentence? Show me. What? Show me.
Whoa.
So do you have any questions while you're looking at that picture? So I don't know if you could see it, but the first question was, are they at the beach? The second question says, is that a picture? It is a question. It is an interrogative sentence. So now that we have been really, again, to use that word foundation, now that we have spent a lot of time laying the foundation for what a sentence is, now we're ready to really apply. I mean, it's not like we haven't been writing, but this is my 15-minute presentation, so I'm trying to, do it somewhat sequentially. But the one thing that I strongly encourage in my classroom at all times is a strong use of vocabulary. They can never not speak in full sentences, because when we write, it's similar to when we read. When we write, we are writing our thoughts. So I want even their thoughts to start being in complete sentences. I'll show you what I mean. And even though, anyway, I just interrupted myself. How does that happen? So All right, turn and talk. Why did the 7th grade hold a grudge? Okay. Okay, you know what I mean?
It's time to reconvene.
Why did the 7th grade hold a grudge? Why did the 7th grade hold a grudge? Rhea, why did the 7th grade hold a grudge? Maybe they did. Never, ever, 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 ever start a sentence with
And or because.
fantastic. Try it again.
The sour cream pulled in a grudge because no one here said birthday for me.
Fabulous. Okay. So anytime the kids don't speak in a full sentence, either I bring them back to make sure they speak in a full sentence, or we bring each other back. So now getting into the actual writing itself, right? We've laid the groundwork. We've talked a lot about what sentences are not, the different types of sentences, the grammar. We have the spelling because we have strong foundational phonics going on. The best thing that's ever happened to my writing instruction was the podcast, the Knowledge Matters campaign. And what I learned and what I will never give up on is that the best way for their best writing will be through the use of content learning. You'll see, like right now, everything is penguins. We're living in the wild, wild world of penguins. But if we are teaching them, if we are providing them with their background knowledge, if we're providing them with the vocabulary all around the content, it will show in their writing, because now they are writing about what they know and what they've just learned. The other thing is, I know that I can help them more in their writing because I know if what they just said is accurate or not. For instance, they could be writing about swimming at their grandma's pool. There's nothing I can help them with. I can ask them questions about it. I don't even know if they have a grandma, or I don't even know if their grandma has a pool. But if we're all learning the same thing and then we're writing about it, I'm a much better partner for them to help them edit, as are their peers. I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, and one of the most important things is we learn 1 or 2 vocabulary words a day, and that vocabulary has to show up in our oral language several times throughout the day. It's amazing what you can incorporate, but that new vocabulary has to show up in their writing. Okay, are we ready for our vocabulary word of the day?
Yes.
Really ready?
Yes.
Okay. It's a verb. And a verb is an
Action.
Yes, it is. It's an action word. And the word today is toboggan.
Toboggan.
You're good. Say toboggan.
Toboggan.
Clap toboggan.
Toboggan.
Show me the syllables.
3.
Fantastic. Okay. So toboggan, another word for toboggan would be to slide. Okay? And a penguin, sometimes instead of walking. So that's me just introducing what that vocabulary word. One of the things that I learned from Anita Archer is when we introduce a vocabulary word, we give examples of what the word means, but then we also give examples of what the word doesn't mean so that we could really check their learning on it. After we've read a little bit about, again, penguins, this is our content, then they always go back and they write, and they have to write about what they just learned right then and there. So not only is their writing improving, but they end up knowing a whole lot about whatever content we're learning about. Brown, what's your sentence?
Penguins can use their flippers.
I wish I knew what they use their flippers for. If only Brandon would tell me. They use their flippers to what?
to period.
Read that whole sentence. That's amazing. Wait, go stand in the front of the room. Friends, listen to this sentence. Go share, kiddo. Listen to this. Your socks are going to be knocked straight off. That's not the front of the room. That's not the front. Would you come to the front? Go ahead.
Penguins can use their flippers to swim.
Huh? 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 Pretty good?
Yeah.
Nice. So talked a little bit before about the importance of oral language. Before they ever put pen to paper, I always have them say the sentence out loud to a partner. And I'll show you why, an example of why.
My sentence is penguins, if they're in the water, they come out when they either want to get warm or cool down. I mean, just to like shed off their old feathers and get new ones, or they just do it so that they can have babies.
So when she was done, I turned the camera off. I wish I hadn't. She turned to her partner and she just said, "What did I say?" And then the two of them talked it out a little bit, and then she was able to reel her thoughts in and come up with an incredible sentence. So now we have, through the content, we've been working on a really nice, strong sentence with a who and a do. And now it's time to expand their writing. One of the ways we do that is through sentence expansion. So they take a simple sentence and they will advance it with a who, a what, a why, a where. And here's an example of how one kid did that. All right, my friends, I heard this sentence, so please prepare to be amazed. Yes? All right, start with your simple sentence.
The hunters came.
The hunters came. Excellent. Now give me your expanded, give me your longer sentence, the one that you expanded.
The hunters came on a day to the icy land to catch the berries to be rich.
Whoo-wee! How about a little applause for these friends? So it wasn't so much that it went from like 3 words or 4 words to like 10. It's just that there was so much more meat to the bones. And it made sense and it stayed within the parameters of the sentence. I know Anjanette touched on this. The Writing Revolution is a fabulous book, and having them include because, but, and so in their sentences is also a great way to improve their writing. First I modeled, and then they included it. All right, you know what I mean?
It's on the recon beam.
Penguins have flippers, so I heard really good stuff, by the way. Vocabulary words were like flying out. Penguins have flippers, so what did you guys say?
Toboggan.
So that's a fragment.
So they can
1 second. Aubrey will use that, but let's make sure that it's not a fragment. Penguins have flippers, so we can't just say toboggan. So
they can swim.
we're going to stick with toboggan. So they
Can slide with
just give me the word.
toboggan
So they
with their hands, with their
Yep.
flippers.
Great. We already have flippers, so let's see if this is what you want to say. Penguins have flippers, so they can.
Toboggan.
Yep. All right. So we're going to have an experiment, and the experiment is to see how blubber works for the penguins. Does anybody remember what the job of the blubber is? What's the job? Oh, I got 2 hands. Oh, look at all these kids willing to take that risk. Fantastic. Kyle, what's the job of the blubber? What does it do?
It makes you fat.
Nope. Nope. What's the job of the blubber for the penguin? Excuse me, Bren. I need you on your bottom, buddy. Hi, Nate. What's the job of the blubber for the penguin? Milo.
It's to keep them warm.
It's to keep them warm. The experiment will be, we will experiment with blubber to see if it keeps you warm. Yeah?
Yeah.
Jace, tell me that again.
I It felt nothing, but it feels like warm.
It felt nothing and warm. Lucky penguin.
So the blubber works?
Oh.
What do you say? The blubber works?
I think it works.
You think it works? What do we think? Was it as cold when you put it in?
No.
No, that wasn't as. Did you get a little bit of water in it?
What do I do for some? Was that blubber? So they keep warm. Over here. They need to stay warm. Right? Yeah. I think it's high blubber because that's how it keeps them warm.
It does keep them warm. Did it keep your hand warm yesterday in the ice water?
Yeah.
It's a great sentence. So as they're learning about it, just think of how much more they could write when they're having an experience with the content. And for me, the other win-win is, focusing on the content, what they're reading is, again, they're learning so much about a subject, but content learning is really sort of becoming lost in early education. And that's a total drag. And, we do a lot of all about me units, but, I know about them. We can move on. We can dig a little deeper. But that doesn't mean that I don't celebrate and embrace the fact that they're in first grade. So, there is still all that fun, creative writing where they can stretch their imagination. And with that, I just have one more slide that I would like to end the night with. So this is Esme, and she is a gem. And if you have not read, Robert Munsch is my favorite children's author. If you don't know Robert Munsch, please do. And Robert Munsch has a story about how to remove a loose tooth. And I love Robert Munsch because he's goofy as all get out. So I read half of How to Remove a Loose Tooth with the kids. And then I had them go and write their own version of How to Remove a Loose Tooth. And, they were encouraged to have as much fun with it as they can. So I'd like to close the night by reading Esme's instructions on how to remove a loose tooth, but I'd like you to please focus on this beautiful little baby embracing that fabulous little teddy bear. And this, my friends, is how Esme, I got this today, how Esme would like to remove a loose tooth. First, try punching him in the face. Next, try whacking him with a brick. Then, try throwing medical balls at him. And last, try running a motorcycle over the wiggly tooth. And that, my friends, is first grade. So that's my bit. If anybody has any questions, I am happy to talk, or if you are all just ready to call it a night, I get that too.
That was awesome. Way to go. Way to finish strong there, Virginia.
That was Esme. That was all Esme.
Well, you shared it with all of us. Folks, we'll stick around. We do have a few more questions. And so please keep them coming. We can go for a little bit longer. I want to first go back to Anjanette for a minute. We started to address this a little bit in the chat, but first, Anjanette, can you talk a little bit about different mnemonics like tide versus race? What's your advice and gut check?
So my advice would be, I'm going to reflect what I've seen by the creators of the Think SRSD, and they say that the specific mnemonic isn't the most important thing, having the mnemonic. And then it's really great if you can carry it through your school. My school is starting to adopt this. This is the first year. So the reading coach just went in to try to help the first grade teachers start it. And they could tell. She's like, I can tell who your students were last year because they were just on it and running because they already knew that whole structure.
So yeah, consistency matters, I think, way more than the actual letters. That's really helpful. To go back to the do what like T chart for a second, can the teacher be, I'm copying, I copy and pasted this from chat now. I'm a little confused, but can the T chart be more specific with the do, like list, describe, talk about, etc.? Yeah, I think so, right? Like you can just be,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just so you can get them to the purpose of writing and kind of, I mean, there was a lot of words in that second prompt. So to kind of to get it down to the most important things that they needed to think about to generate their ideas.
The thing I keep coming back to with the pull apart the prompt piece. We worked last year with yeah, at least was a fifth grade teacher, and she presented to the fellows actually about that particular strategy, and she talked about how her fifth graders were use that like do what T chart really effectively on the standardized tests that they were taking in the state of California, and she talked about like walking around the room and she saw that they all had like little T-charts like next to like every single essay question. And it was amazing how they were using that very simple strategy, but using it to understand what the question was actually asking. And so I love that you're starting with this in kindergarten. One more question for you, Anjanette. Can you speak more about jot talk and cognitive load? This teacher is having some trouble with some intervention and sped students with jot talk on the tide organizers because they just want to write in whole sentences and sometimes struggle to to think and do that at the same time. And just like any tips. And these are older kids, so like I get that it's gonna maybe harder to like get them to break them of that habit.
It probably is because they're used to that. I do have students who sometimes want to write the whole sentence. But because mine are younger, they get more fatigued, so they're happier just doing the jot talk. But my first thought would be is to model, and just do it with them over and over until they kind of are comfortable with doing just those few little simple ideas. And then they can kind of dig into making the sentences more complex on their writing day.
That's great. And that's a huge takeaway for me too from releasing writers think SRSD is just like the intense like model more than you think is necessary. So that's something I've certainly learned. And then a question for both of you all. Where do are all of your writing prompts content related? Virginia, I know you showed some like fun ones, but like are they all related to science and social studies? Maybe Virginia, I'll kick it over to you.
No, I try to do as much as I can, but I certainly have how-to units and narrative writing and realistic fiction. So I do definitely get it all in, but I have to say for me, maybe I just more enjoy the content and that whole Velcro building, but nope, there's other stuff in there too.
And same, what about you, Anjanette?
Yeah, there's a mix. And I know like I just saw another one or all our writing prompts content. No, because like the one about your favorite food, I mean we could come back from art prep and do a tide. What did you do at art prep today? Write the topic. What were three important things that happened at art prep today? Write them in here. Wrap it up with an ending. So it really is flexible to be used with anything.
Question, I have another question in the chat about, oh, I actually have a question about like time and like breaking up this work over a series of days. But first, how long does it take children to get to know a topic well enough to discuss and write about it? Like yeah, are they writing every day? Like talk to us about how that works.
So because our curriculum moves forward, we read more information to them every day. So we'll pick one, something that we're going to learn about and think about where our power cycle is going to start. And so we'll probably have about 2 days of reading and talking about a topic before we jump in and start writing on it. At older grades, you might need more time because you're going to do more with the information and the details.
Virginia, what about you?
They definitely write every day. They write at least twice a day, sometimes more. When it's with the content, they can write every day because I've just read something to them, so they can write about what they just heard. And Yeah, so they do write every day, and then we also, we'll respond to whatever book we're reading. So they do book responses a lot as well.
The, the power, like for us, the first day we plan, the second day we organize, the third day we write, the fourth day and sometimes it takes the fourth day to write, depending, and then the fourth day we score. So it's a week. Sometimes depending on other, like how hard it is, it will take more days than that. But our goal is to try to get one cycle in a week.
That's really helpful context. Any other questions? I'm going to drop some resources that were mentioned, and we'll also link these in the email we send out at the end of the week. But any other questions for Virginia or Anjanette before we send you all home, because it is a school night after all, and Virginia's bedtime is fast approaching.
Hey, it's true.
Sure.
I just want to say thanks to everybody for coming. You're amazing to come and try to learn more and be the kind of teachers that our children need.
Yeah, this was a really good session, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be in touch. And thank you so much to Virginia and Anjanette for opening up your classrooms, sharing your expertise, and just, rolling with it. You're the best.
You're
Cool.
the best. All right, thanks for coming out, guys. I always say this, we're the summer's off,